This podcast is sponsored by funkytshirts.co.uk. And you've got to remember, this is officially a Disney movie, so it's impressive that they managed to squeeze all that stuff in there. The sex jokes, the drugs jokes.
Want to do some cocaine?
Hey, cocaine is the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about Bolivian marching powder?
They know all the slang terms. They have a list.
Hello there, and welcome to More Movies podcast number 65.
You're doing 65 now. 65, oh shit!
Hello there, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for joining us. My name is Greg Fisher. I'm joined always by my friend and colleague, Mr. David Roberts. How are you doing this week, Dave?
I'm doing very well, sir. Watching plenty of movies as always, and excited to get tucked into talking about some of the ones we've been watching recently.
So this week we're going to be talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. We're also going to be talking about Twisters, a little movie called Cuckoo. What else are we talking about? Well, let's talk about Rebel Ridge. We'll go into that later on. And also we're going to talk about M. Night Shyamalan's Trap at some point, which some people suggest should have been renamed Crap. But we'll get into that later. So stick with us, and here we go. Okay, so first on the list is Deadpool and Wolverine. This is the third Deadpool movie now, directed by Sean Levy, starring Ryan Reynolds and his best friend Hugh Jackman, has returned to his role of Wolverine one more time for this episode in the Deadpool series, another Marvel movie. But, you know, the Deadpool movies tend to be those kind of Marvel movies where even people who hate Marvel movies or hate superhero movies, they actually quite enjoy Deadpool for his irreverent humour, the fact that it's very sort of, meta, the way it takes the piss out of itself, is what I'm trying to say. So people tend to like these. It's kind of darker. The comedy's darker. There's lots of comedy in it as well. It doesn't take itself seriously, is another thing I was trying to say, I suppose. But it still delivers on all the other levels of, loads of Easter eggs in there, loads of action, loads of comic book stuff is of course mashed in there. But it's not like just watching the latest Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. It takes itself less seriously than that. Also very good for sort of crossing over different elements of the Marvel universe, especially those darker aspects. I suppose Wolverine is always considered, a bit more of a hard-ass character. He had these sort of, knives comes out of his fists and he can shred people apart. It's a lot different than just zapping them with some ray and freezing them, isn't it? It's a bit more sort of grisly and gruesome. So, Wolverine fits quite well into this whole Deadpool universe. Although, ironically, Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool kind of started back when they did the Wolverine movie, all those years ago. Ryan Reynolds has gone on to do his own thing with the character in these last three movies. They're very popular with people because he is such a funny guy, he kind of suits the role really well, I suppose. That kind of wisecracking, smart-ass sort of character. Always got a few good jokes. Certainly had us giggling. And as I say, you're not the biggest Marvel or superhero fan in the world, but you really enjoyed this movie, so I'm going to pass it over to you now. Let us know what your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, so, obviously, Ryan Reynolds, most famous for owning Wrexham Football Club in his own franchise film here. It's interesting because, as you say, I'm not a big comic book fan. I'm not a huge Marvel fan. I've enjoyed some of it. Spider-Man I've enjoyed and stuff like that. But I've tended to enjoy more the kind of abstract stuff. So Guardians of the Galaxy I quite liked. They tend to not be the kind of, I'm a superhero, blah, 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 special powers from Magic Planet kind of. That's what I don't like. But when it's a bit more off the beat, it's more interesting. And as you say, it's more gritty, it's more thingy. And then, of course, it's very, we're not taking this seriously. And this is almost a kind of, I guess, it's like for in a modern context for the superhero films, it's the scary movie or the airplane of the genre, right? So it does very well in that. Now, I'd seen the first Deadpool a few years ago, found it very funny. I'd always meant to watch Deadpool 2 and hadn't, so the day before we went to see this at the pictures, I watched Deadpool 2, and everyone had always said it's even better, and I had to agree. It was. I was watching Deadpool 2 and rolling laughing, particularly the bit where he kind of gets baby legs and he's sitting on the sofa because he's been chopped in half. I was dying laughing at that. I thought it was some of the funniest shit. So, you know, we were kind of excited. Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought it was an interesting idea. I'd enjoyed the X-Men films. They came out as I was growing up. So all the original X-Men... X-Men's one of them funny films. The first few films were great. The original kind of trilogy, it really petered off, and they did all kinds of silly young X-Men and crap like that. Although they did Logan, which was excellent with Wolverine, and Wolverine's one of my characters I always liked. I thought he was cool. It was more realistic.
He was the popular character, wasn't he?
And. You know what's not to love, right? Especially with Hugh Jackman, a great actor, love him to pieces, great guy. So yeah, I went and watched this, and it didn't disappoint. Not really. It was packed with the same silly humour. I mean, one of the interesting things, of course, I mean, it's a long time between Deadpool 2 and this. It's 6 years, and this was something I mentioned before when we were talking about. The Mad Max film, you know, such a period of time between. So there's always concern about is it gone too long? Have they waited too long? There's lots happened in between, obviously COVID and stuff, but it had moved from Fox to Marvel. They bought it out, and so there was a concern here: is it going to be toned down? Is it not going to be what those original two films were? No fear, it was still rated R. There was still blood and guts and chopping around, was exactly what we wanted. Lots of swearing and silly jokes and adult humour. Great, exactly what we wanted. Hugh Jackman brought something really fresh to it. The kind of rivalry between the two of them really worked. You know, and great to see. I mean, Matthew McFadden playing one of the bad guys in this. I always loved him. Great British actor. He obviously did the multiverse thing. I'm not too keen on the multiverse thing. It's kind of fell apart. But they got away with it and kind of made it work.
Well, exactly. If you're going to do it, in you know,
it's lampooning it, right?
This is, you know, because all that Fox stuff was referenced as well. So this is what I mean about it being so meta. It talks about it as if, you know, it's aware of itself being a movie in a way. He's always breaking the fourth wall, talking to the audience. And there was a bit where you sort of seen the 20th Century Fox, the huge logo you used to see with the flashlight start was half buried when they get put into
that was good.
Yeah, which was hilarious, I thought. You know, all of those little jabs, very funny stuff.
It was very funny stuff, but, and there's always a but.
There's always a but.
There's always a but. That's the kind of joke he'd tell.
He'd love that.
He would. But was this as good as... which I think Deadpool 2 is the best one. Was it as good as that? No, I don't think it was. I don't think it was quite as funny. Okay. I don't think it was quite as violent. It was kind of missing something. It felt slightly toned down. It's hard to pin down exactly what it is. But I think one of the things that I liked about Deadpool 2 was it was very kind of based in the city, based in, you know, it found a ground into it in terms of what was going on. And because this goes down into, they're in this underworld, that hell thing or whatever, and the multiverses and stuff, there was something about it which just felt like they were dipping too much into the superhero stuff that kind of took something away from it for me. But to say that I'm nitpicking at stuff, and it was very enjoyable and funny and looked great, and the costumes were fantastic and all the special effects, you know, and all the cameos and Easter eggs were, you know, very funny stuff.
You know, I mean, I don't know about was it not as good as 2? I can't really. I remember 2 a little bit. That, you know, it's hard to say because it was a very strong sequel. There's some hilarious jokes in there. You know, you got all that stuff, the drug references with his landlady and all that. They're always trying to snort some coke and everything. And to have that in a Marvel movie is hilarious. And they did kind of carry that over. There was references to that. And you got to remember, this is officially a Disney movie, so it's impressive that they were managed to squeeze all that stuff in there. The sex jokes, the drugs jokes.
Want to do some cocaine?
Hey, cocaine is the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about Bolivian marching powder?
They know all the slang terms. They have a list.
It had all the jokes, it had all the violence, as you say, and all those kind of things. And one thing we've got to mention is the biggest surprise of the entire film turning up.
The cameos.
The cameos with Blade.
Yeah. And you had Jennifer Garner turn back up as Elektra. You had the girl as well, of course, from Logan, which was great to see. She's like a teen now. And she made a sort of like a return to that character, which was great to see. And also you had Channing Tatum turn up as Gambit. So, for fanboys, that's got to be a good one, isn't it? We actually see Gambit as he's supposed to be, throwing the cards about and doing all this Gambit stuff. Pretty cool. So, in terms of a third movie having to go further than the previous ones did, like you said, the last one, it was in the city, it was more contained. I think this one had to get out of that kind of environment and take it to another place in order to tell this story.
Yeah, I get that. And I think the Blade thing, going back to that was such a huge surprise to me, because it's just one of them things of, as someone who doesn't know all the rest of the characters, but Blade was big, right? And to see Wesley Snipes turning back up, it was kind of like,
it was.
It was
holy impressive,
shit.
because I haven't really seen much of Wesley Snipes in the last 10 years or so.
No.
I think he has worked again, but it's kind of like, it's nothing major, nothing as big as Blade anyway. So to see him back as that character was cool. And there was some good jokes in there, that I think there was one point where he said, there is only one Blade, there will never be another. And Deadpool kind of looks at the camera, because we know that there's a Mahershala Ali movie on the way. At some point, they're going to be doing another Blade. So it's the little jokes like that that do it for me. I was rolling with some of those, looking at the camera like Laurel and Hardy sort of thing.
Yeah. But yeah, it was good. I think the plot and the story of the second one, for me, was more interesting. The whole kind of getting that gang of misfits together who all die instantly because they're rubbish. Going, they're chasing through the city and stuff. It just felt more fun in that way. And this felt a little stretched out and kind of, whatever. And so I think that's the only harm of it. But
you got that whole backstory really in real life that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have had this faux rivalry, where they are at each other's throats on social media and dissing each other left, right, and centre, even though we know they're really friends. But they played up to this whole idea that they hate each other, which kind of played into them eventually doing this, because I think it's been in the works for ages. Like you said, took 6 years to make, but I think they wanted to wait that time so that Hugh Jackman was ready and free to do it again. And Ryan Reynolds, obviously, like you said, he's been doing a hell of a lot with Wrexham in the last few years. And that is something would be remiss for us to not mention, because here we are, we're both in Wales. And when you get all these Deadpools at the end, you've had Nice Pool and you've had all of these different versions. And then you get one with the Welsh flag on, Welsh Pool. Now, that's such a great joke. Especially for people from Wales, because you see, for anyone who doesn't know, who's listening in from anywhere else, Welsh Pool is a town in mid Wales. It's south of Wrexham, a little bit north of where I am here. So, the idea that he put a character in Welsh Pool is a play on the fact that there is a place in Wales called Welsh Pool. And,
it was very cool.
For Welsh people, or anyone, Brits knowing about that, I thought that was a real sort of a little tip of the cap to Wales there. So good on him for doing that, because I thought that was brilliant. Great idea. Loads of little cameos again. That
was a really fun moment as well. It's all those all the Deadpools when they turn up, and they, and all the different ones. And it's actually his wife is one of them, and his kid is another one.
Wasn't
the baby? I think
the guy he owns Wrexham with was in there as one of them somewhere. I'm not
possibly,
sure. Rob McElhenney, maybe not. I might just be dreaming that up, but there was a lot of them.
Yeah, I think that was a very fun sequence.
And the little dog was hilarious. That ugly little chihuahua or whatever it was.
It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But, But, yeah, enjoyable, funny, worth watching if you like, a good laugh at these kind of things. It has been popular, and
Yeah.
It's, even for a non-Marvelistic fan like myself, it's a good laugh.
And I think now a solid trilogy. We always talk about which for the third installment let it down, or this, that, and the other. There's very few perfect trilogies out there, but they probably won't halt it here. But if they did, I'd say it's close as you get modern days to a perfect trilogy. They're three damn fine films.
It's very solid, and I was about to say that, I don't think they should carry on. I've got a very strong feeling they will. That with all these things, they can't help themselves because of the money.
Well, look how many times Hugh Jackman's come back to that character. Like you said, he did the original X-Men films of, I think there was either 3 or 4. Then he come out and did his own solo movie, the Wolverine, which was the one where they introduced Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, albeit nothing like the character that he's become. Then he did Logan. Then he was in one of the, like you said, the X-Men First Class, where they did the prequels, like when they were all young. He came back in for one of them as well. So he has returned to that role so many times, so much so that it's like James Bond for him. It's like everyone's, no matter what else he does, Greatest Showman, all this stuff, it's always going to be Wolverine. But considering his age, he got into shape again for it. I know it's kind of who cares sort of thing, but it's impressive. I thought that he can still do it and still play it. And,
it is, but it's also these things. It's with all these things, overstaying the welcome of. All right, you got the band together one last time. You finished the Deadpool trilogy. It kind of feels like a natural end to okay, off we go. Move on to something new. But you have that feeling of with all these Marvel things, it's like you're going to drag this out and on, and at what point does it become then silly?
Well, 200 million budget, it took 1.3 billion. So if as these things usually dictated by finances. If he did want to do it again, they're going to give it a green light with that sort of money. But again, where they're going to go further than this. So anyway, like we said, for non-comic book Marvel fans, it's still a good laugh. It's still something that if you've watched the other two and enjoyed them, definitely give it a go. If you haven't already. If you have, let us know what you thought of the film. Did you agree with Dave that it wasn't as strong as the previous film, or did you enjoy it just as much or more? Let us know in the comments. That'd be great. But Deadpool and Wolverine. Done. Next movie on the agenda is Twisters, which was directed by Lee Isaac Chung, stars Daisy Edgar-Jones, Glen Powell, Anthony Ramos, all these kind of people. I'm old. I remember the original Twister from the 90s with Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Really good 90s movie, really. We used to watch it. The graphics at the time, the CGI was quite cutting edge. Really good ensemble cast with lots of jokes and good fun mixed in there. Good action film. And this one, it wasn't so much a remake as a requel, a rehash. I don't exactly know what it was supposed to be. It had Easter eggs from that original film in this one, but there was no direct line of, we are the children of those people or anything like that. Didn't need to go there. But otherwise, it's kind of similar in some ways. They kept hold of some of that spirit of there being a sort of couple of teams of people chasing these huge storms, and they're meant to be doing some sort of scientific experiments on them to figure out how to dissipate them, how to make them go. So you got this like Force 9 twister that's ripping stuff apart, and you put something in the middle of it, some chemical, and it goes like a silent fart. Just, I think that's the point of it. I mean, there's not much more to it than that. It is just a kind of a vehicle for Glen Powell in some ways. She was very good, Daisy Edgar-Jones. Another one, again, I didn't realise was British because she plays an American in this. But then I seen an interview with her afterwards, and she was, so very British. So,
hello, darling.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well done. You did a bloody good American accent. But you remember the 90s one? I mean, you would have watched it after
yes.
the fact, obviously.
No, I think I watched it when it came when it came out on VHS. I was very young watching it, but I remember it. Of course, it was in that time when the great kind of disaster movie revival of the 90s, and we had Dante's Peak and Volcano and what else? What was...
There was that one, Deep Impact.
Deep Impact, which was the best one, Deep Impact.
What about the one with Bruce Willis as well?
Armageddon.
Armageddon, that's it. I used to love that, but when I watched it again a couple of years ago, thinking, "Oh, that was great," I watched it again, and I was like, "It was terrible."
I still love Armageddon, but I know it's like reviled.
I still love it, but I thought for the first time, this is pretty bad.
I mean, the problem with a lot of it is believability, right? And that's what it always comes down to. Could you believe this circumstance happens? Now, we haven't had as many disaster films over the last 20 years, I would say. We've had a few, 2012, which, if you go back and watch, the special effects look terrible now.
Terrible story as well.
Terrible story and all that. So, what we've never reached is... there was some good ones in the 90s, and Twister wasn't bad. It wasn't the best of the bunch, but it was a solid one. It wasn't as bad as Dante's Peak, which annoys the shit out of me.
Is that the one with Pierce and Linda Hamilton?
It is, yeah.
I never watched that, to be honest. I've never seen it.
The part that annoys me in that is they're trying to escape from the lava on the volcano, and then with the two little children, and they're in a little boat, and then with the grandmother, and she decides to get out of the boat and drag the boat along to safety through lava. Like it wouldn't disintegrate instantly.
Even being 30 feet above it, I think you'd probably burst into flames. Anakin Skywalker style.
It starts to stretch incredulity, right? So that's always been the issue, and nothing comes close to the original disaster movies of the 70s, like
Airport,
and the best one, Poseidon Adventure,
obviously.
And Tower Inferno. They're the best. There's a believability to those films. It's quite real, it's quite physical, etc. And then, ones since have just pushed the boundaries of this isn't right? So back to the actual film, Twister. Twister's quite fun, and it's great, and it's a great cast. The original film now, Bill Paxton and all that.
Yeah.
It's a enjoyable film. Wasn't the best of the time, but it was good. It was very popular at the time, second best.
I loved it.
Of 1996.
I thought it was great.
This, as you say, what is it? And that is the central question to it. Is it a sequel? Is it a remake? It's neither, but it's in the same universe. So it already is confusing. The cast is fine, and the film starts interesting, where obviously there's a load of deaths. All their friends from college, they all get killed because they try and go and check out this storm, and it all goes wrong.
You can see it coming, can't you?
You can see it coming.
It's like... what you call it, Scream or something. You think, here we go, and straight in.
Yeah, but it's I think it's a strong opening. You kind of you open the film and you go, okay, shit's gone down, and then we're cutting forward 10 years later or whatever it is, and it's like
5 years,
5 years, whatever it was, and it's like, okay, we know what's going to happen here. It's dragging her back into something she's tried to escape because of the trauma.
Yeah.
But then from there, it's just like getting involved with all these storm chasers and stuff, and it's the same repetitive nonsense. And there's this whole idea of if we release these particles of like whatever it is into a tornado, we can make it disappear.
Yeah.
Look,
basically, giving the Twister some ketamine.
Yeah.
So
you might convince a 5-year-old of a magic trick, but come on, you're taking the piss now. This is
but you got to remember this is American film for American audience, so you're not far off there when you.
Well, maybe, but it's so incredulous. You're just like, this is just stupid.
Yeah, it is.
And then they do all this, like digging into the ground to stay on a tornado and all this, and you're just like, this is just silly, really, really silly.
I think all of these films are, even though you're talking about the 70s ones being like the best, and they were still silly. They're still silly films.
Yes.
But it's about the cast. It's about how they sort of, their chemistry with one another. And I thought, to be fair, in this sense, it wasn't terrible in that way. This Glen Powell, he's on the rise now. He's had some prominent roles. The first thing we saw him in was that bloody Top Gun Maverick, where he plays the douchebag. Yeah. But then I seen him in that Hitman, the Linklater film, which he was really good in because he plays so many different sort of parts. And I thought in this he was the right kind of douchebag for this film. You know, he was a good sort of match for her sort of brainy kind of, you know, she's the brains of the operation. She's the one who's going to solve it, but he's the one that kind of nudges her to solve it. As well as Anthony Ramos is in there as well, but he's the kind of conflicted one.
The most interesting aspect of it is they play this whole thing of some of them are there to try and basically go after the people whose house has been destroyed, bit of an insurance job. They're after the land, they're the bastards of the whole operation. And they've got these other ones which are like trying to help the community, and it's kind of ambiguous at first, and then the characters work out, oh, hold on a second, actually they're the bastards and these are the good guys. Old twist around. It's an old trope, but it's an interesting little take on what's going on, and that's probably the most interesting thread of the film. But I think everything else, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The acting is perfectly fine. The special effects are absolutely perfectly fine, and all of that. But it's very TV movie, run-of-the-mill drama. Yeah. Not that interesting. I wouldn't go and spend money at the cinema to go watch it, put it that way. No. You know, we caught it on streaming afterwards. Yeah. It's what it is. And was it anything to shout about? Because the one thing that annoyed me is how many trailers we saw for this film before we watched it. It was kind of like, Jesus Christ. Well, we've seen all those trailers and I thought, oh, God, they're just redoing the same old shit again. But then lots of people were saying, yeah, it's not that bad. It's actually quite good. So that was what made me think, well, I'll give it a watch then, because there was enough people I've seen that saying they enjoyed it. I thought, well, there must be something to it. And yes, it's not the greatest movie ever. Yes, everything you said pretty much spot on there about it. But was it the worst thing I've seen this year? No, it wasn't that bad. No, yeah. It's an easy way to waste it was 2 hours. That was the thing as well. Probably could have done with an hour and a half, one hour 45. Probably went on a bit too long, as some of these ones do these days. I haven't got a problem with long films, but if you're going to have a longer format, you need to really have a good structure and do it properly. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's something of modern films, isn't it? It's like they're keeping the running time going up, especially on streaming services. They want to keep you on the platform and blah, blah, blah. But as you say, if you're going to go long, have a good plot, have a good structure, keep me interested, and it doesn't, right? So it soon gets tired. Put it that way. But there we go. Not the worst thing ever. Not the greatest film ever. Very much in the middle there, run-of-the-mill stuff. If you want something easy to watch that you don't have to, concentrate on too hard and you're just going to go on a rip-roaring ride for a couple of hours, then it hits the spot. If you're looking for something a bit more than that, a bit more in-depth, you ain't going to get it here. So there we go. I'd say middle-ish. Middle. Not a thumbs up, but definitely not a thumbs down either. Fair. A shaking middling. This podcast is sponsored by funkyt-shirts.co.uk, a t-shirt design brand shipping internationally. Check out their extensive and ever-increasing catalogue of cool t-shirt designs that include collections such as film and TV, retro comics, and spooky designs. All products are produced and shipped from locations as close as possible to the buyer's address to avoid extensive and unnecessary shipping costs, and all t-shirts are made in an environmentally friendly process. Keep it funky and order your t-shirts today. Okay, now we're going to talk about M. Night Shyamalan's latest piece, Trap, which is starring Josh Hartnett, who was kind of a big deal back in the early noughties, around that time. He's kind of a good actor, I thought. He's done some good stuff. He was in The Bear as well recently. I know you haven't caught up with that yet, but he's in the. And Oppenheimer he was in. Of course. How could I forget he was in Oppenheimer? I didn't watch Wrath of Man, but he was good in Oppenheimer as well. Like quite a straight role, playing a scientist and, He's had a bit of a comeback in the last couple of years of doing things, yeah. You'd watched this before me. You said it was awful. Our friend Michelle has also watched it, said it was awful. So I thought, well, I've got to watch it just to see how awful it is,
Sometimes people telling you something's awful makes you want to watch it more.
I gotta see it for myself.
I mean, I like M. Night Shyamalan to a point. I thought, when he started out, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, brilliant films, the pair of them. I wasn't a massive fan of Signs, but I enjoyed The Village, and then I kind of lost touch with him since then, really. I didn't watch Old, which you mentioned to me earlier, a year or so ago. I didn't watch that. But this one, I thought, well, it's time to... I watched the trailer and I thought, okay, interesting premise. Let's find out what it's all about. So basically, it's this guy. He is taking his daughter to this concert, kind of like Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande or something, the hottest kind of teen pop star of the time, called Lady Raven, who was actually played by Salika Shyamalan. Is that his daughter?
His daughter, yes.
So, but she was very good actually in the role, I thought. So anyway, they go to this concert. He's taking his daughter there, but then we soon found, there's all these cops surrounding the place and all these SWAT teams, and there's loads of them, loads more than there should be. And you think, what's going on here? It's quickly revealed that actually there's a serial killer in the building somewhere, and they've led him into they know he's going to be at the concert, so they're just basically, that's the idea of the trap. They're going to get him before he leaves. And then we find out, hey, it's Josh Hartnett is the butcher. He's the serial killer, even though he's there with his daughter, and he's actually quite a good dad. He's taking her to this concert. He's really sweet with her. He's, it's just like little things start to happen. You think, oh no, he's actually is a psychopathic serial killer. But it's all about him, how he's going to escape from the, I don't know, it's like a big stadium, isn't it? Stadium concert. How's he going to get out without being caught with the cops? And that's kind of the plot. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought, considering what I'd heard and from what you'd said, I didn't think it was the worst film ever. It was very cheesy. It was very sort of formulaic in some ways, but I thought in other ways it tried to be, it was trying to be quite original in the sense that, I haven't really seen this story before about a serial killer who's actually a dad and is escaping from this huge public place, So there was definitely a potential in the idea of the story. I don't think it quite hit the mark as much as it could have done or should have done. And I think it possibly, considering he's supposed to be this psychopathic killer, probably could have had a little bit more gruesome, grisly stuff in there that he started to hint towards but didn't really follow through with. But I didn't think it was as terrible as other people did. But, let's pass it over to you and you can tell me why it was much worse than I'm saying.
Well, obviously it should have been called Crap and not Trap, because that's what it is. Shyamalan, obviously, we know what he is like as a filmmaker. I agree with you. Some of his earlier stuff I really enjoyed and much preferred, stuff like The Village and stuff was really great stuff, Sixth Sense. But more recent stuff has been very murky. I haven't watched the Cabin one, which was the last one he did, but the one before that was Old, and I watched that, and I loved the concept he'd come up with in that one, but the dialogue and stuff was atrocious. And again, here in this film, I thought the dialogue was just very silly. It's not a bad premise, I guess. It's not the most interesting, I don't think. Even the premise starts to stretch, kind of. Would the police and the FBI really lock down an entire fucking concert in this way, and the costs and all this? It seems a bit silly. But fine, we'll go along with it. I'd say he's great. He's always been a good actor. He kind of plays it kind of right. But I just say one of the first problems is if he's supposed to be this terrible serial killer and all this dastardly trying to escape, he doesn't really do much. The best thing he did was the first thing he did, where he knocks this woman down the stairs kind of thing, really, it was a subtle but sadistic thing to do. Yeah. And I sat there thinking, by the end of it, I wanted more of that. I wanted him to be taking people out here, there, and everywhere as part of this whole thing, but he didn't.
Well, he does that thing where he put the pop bottles in the deep fat fryers and that exploded in that woman's face. That was another one he did. That was to create a diversion and other people being collateral damage.
But there was something about that was a little bit silly, and I don't know what it was, but it was like, not really buying this. Okay. But then it starts doing things like going up to the roof and there's like 5 cops there. And it's just, I went in the wrong direction. It's a very silly scene.
He said, I come up for some fresh air or something.
Fresh air or something. So every time something like that happened, it was so ridiculous. Okay. And he befriended a T-shirt merchant and get dragged into a room backstage.
That T-shirt guy, I thought, yeah, exactly. He got buddy with him. And I thought with the box cutter and everything, he was going to end up slashing the hell out of him. Which you'd think a character like that would have done for some reason. But no, he was like,
completely held.
Don't want to cut yourself. Give him back the knife.
Give it him back. But then even the fact that they made friends was really weird and was like that would happen.
I think that's the idea, though. He was like he's a fireman and he's a dad and he's like nice with his daughter. So it was supposed to be this Jekyll and Hyde type thing where he is an upstanding, nice guy. He even helps those people at that one point, doesn't he? Again, to help himself when they're backstage. Yeah. He carries that girl out, and it's obviously just so he doesn't get spotted by that profiler. But there's that side of him that could be a really nice, upstanding citizen. He's a fireman. He's a really good dad and all this. But he's also this psychopathic killer. It didn't quite fit, did it?
Yeah, but I think the problem is that the scenarios they were putting him in started to stretch reality at that point. Like, okay, he takes the girl backstage. The security would have then said, fuck off, back out to the seats, mate. We'll deal with this because we're paramedics. They wouldn't have let him hang around. It's all starts to get silly. And then you get to the point of you can kind of accept, you get over most of these things that happen in the arena. And then you get to the point of, right, now we leave the arena and there's this whole thing about going to their house with Lady Raven or whatever.
Yeah.
And at that point, the film loses all sense of structure and reality and just becomes weird.
Well, I was quite shocked that he was still married. I thought if they turned up at the house, there was going to be some sort of, well, he doesn't actually live there anymore and he just picked her up to take her away. But then there's a son and there's a wife and he's standing with them and it's kind of like, oh, that doesn't seem to fit quite right.
No.
So his motivation was just not there, was it? It was supposed to be he was mistreated by his mother because there was this whole idea of playing the Oedipus complex on him about his mom and stuff, and that didn't seem to wash.
No, it felt very, very, very strange. The best thing there is Alison Pill. I know it's Maggie from the newsroom. She's been in lots of stuff. She played the wife. Fantastic performance, and that whole bit was actually really interesting when it came just to them two. But the whole sequence from when they left, it really fell apart into kind of, this makes no sense, this is silly, this is stupid, it looks ridiculous. I just couldn't buy any of it. And at that point I was going, this is just... The problem with most of his more recent films, it falls apart at the end.
It's like he's got a good little idea for a film, but then he just gets carried away and it just doesn't go anywhere. I mean, talking of that scene with just him and his wife in there, and it's revealed she poisoned him. You can see it coming a mile off because, let's have some cake one last time, sit down together before you get arrested or whatever. And she's poisoned him with the stuff that he's been knocking people out with. But not only does it not quite knock him out properly, he then gets tasered about 3 or 4 times. And it's like he's got this superhuman strength. He gets the one guy down, he's pushing his eye. And it's like, I think most men, no matter how well built they are and stuff like this, after being dosed up with a shitload of Rohypnol or whatever it was, and then getting tasered by 3 different individuals is enough to put you out for at least 24 hours before you can actually operate again. And he goes on for ages after that.
It was very upsetting.
I think it's got to be a thumbs down, yeah. I'm sorry, Shyamalan, but he had a cameo in there. That was nice to see. And like you say, he got his daughter in there, and she didn't do a bad job of her part.
No, she was
convincing as that kind of like pop star icon, but yeah, I don't know, not great. Next movie on our list is Cuckoo. Directed by Tilman Singer, written by Tilman Singer, stars Hunter Schafer,
What's up?
Jan Bluthart, Martin Kozakas, and also the British guy Dan Stevens. Great to see Dan Stevens in there. So IMDb just says one line: a 17-year-old girl is forced to move with her family to a resort where things are not what they seem. Doesn't really tell you anything. So she's an American girl. She has to go over to Austria to live with her dad, who's now married to someone else and has got another daughter with someone else. And they live out in this sort of like rural mountains in Austria somewhere. It's not like one of the big cities or anything. And yes, things aren't as they seem. Everything's a bit strange. Even she's a bit strange. The daughter herself, the character, she's, it's not quite right. It's like something's happened, something traumatic here. Everyone around them's a bit of a weirdo, to the point of, Dan Stevens' character, for example, is this doctor that's sort of, I don't know what he's supposed to be doing. You think you're trying to figure it out. You're like, what the hell's going on here? And the young daughter has got something to do with it. She ends up getting a job in the hotel, meant to be working behind the reception. Some really weird things happen there, and you're thinking, what's going on here? Because she's trying to get out of there, and she doesn't want to be there. She wants to go back to America, really. But it's a question of how she's going to do that. Then this another young lady comes into the hotel. They kind of strike it up. They have a little bit of a passionate fling, and it's like, let's get out of here. That doesn't quite work out either. And she ends up back there, and she keeps getting worse injuries all the time. She's like got this cut on her head, this bandage, and something else happens, and her arm's in a sling. And it kind of reminded me of that film Kate with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, where she's like just getting worse and worse injuries the whole time. I liked Hunter Schafer's performance. Thought she did well as that kind of kooky, strange, nerdy kind of character. It was almost like, remember that movie Brick?
Yes. Yes.
Ryan Johnson one. It was kind of like she was a sort of, not your typical hero character, kind of like an oddball that's thrown into the middle of this as the hero. And then obviously things go on and you find out what's happening. There's been some crazy shit going on with experimenting on people and how they are brought into the world, so to speak, which involves her sister, and supposed to be some sort of almost like supernatural element to it, because there's this crazy old woman chasing them down everywhere as well in the woods. So there was a horror element to it, but also a kind of thriller element to it as well, where there was kind of a little bit of guns and action and you had to survive. I didn't think it was a 10 on 10. It wasn't like a fantastic film, but I thought it was quite original. I enjoyed the vibe of it. So over to you. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. I'd say it's that indie vibe stuff, and it's kind of a classic situation. Move out to the middle of nowhere, something strange starts happening. We know those story beats. All the local people are weird when they arrive. Of course, this is like the Wicker Man type thing. All these different kind of films. It's that scenario is starting to play out. But as you say, it all starts to become weirder and all these things. Great cast and good performances from everyone, and it does keep you intrigued.
Yeah.
They do a good job of building stuff up. You got this whole thing where her sister keeps having seizures, especially when like these noises playing. It's like a thing, and they do this thing where the kind of camera is like shaking and zooming in, out, zoom in. It's a very interesting thing to watch. Being someone who has epilepsy, there's a thing you call an aura, which is kind of the feeling before you're about to have a seizure.
Right.
And it's a very similar thing, really. It's kind of like it's like the top of your brain is tingling, and the spatial awareness is starting to disintegrate. And so I think they did a very good job of kind of capturing that in a way.
Yeah.
And then they do this whole thing where the same thing plays out 2 or 3 times, because this plays and then it's kind of like they go back and they're doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
Again, which ties into like this whole thing of you get like memory loss when having seizures and stuff.
Yeah.
Like short-term memory loss. So I thought they did a really interesting thing with that and how they were playing with it. I mean, the film's not really about that, but it's an interesting tie-in. And then the whole thing ends up being about this whole kind of what would you call it, kind of insemination, procreation experiments, and this whole thing.
Usually it's like with the Omen or something, it's like to produce the Rosemary's Baby, the spawn of Satan, or to produce the savior of the universe. So it was somewhere in between, wasn't it? It was supposed to be.
Well, it felt more. I enjoyed it a little bit more because it was like, oh, it's just like a science experiment, and it's about. It was more like Jurassic Park or something, in terms of we're going to create this certain creature that it can't procreate in a normal way. It has to use a host body and stuff. So it's an interesting concept all the way through, and the story beats were really interesting. Some good action in there, and all these different things happened that you were like, okay, this is good. So I enjoyed it. Again, with a lot of these films, it's the ending. And I think that the last part of the film was 15, 20 minutes too long. It was dragging. You knew the answer. Yeah. The answer had explained itself. But now you're dragging this last bit out and out. And it was like, for God's sake, just tie this up now because we know the answer. There's nothing more to say.
I enjoyed it, though. Of all the sort of recent things I've watched... that could be somehow classified this kind of genre, mystery, horror, thriller kind of thing. This was one of the better ones, I thought. I quite enjoyed
it was solid and enjoyable, and it didn't, offend my intelligence or anything like that. So it was good and solid. As you say, it wasn't like a 10 out of 10, brilliant, but a good, 7.
7, 8.
Yeah, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'd advise people to give it a whirl anyway to see what they think. If you have, as we always say, give us your thoughts. Let us know what you thought of it in the comments. That would be really interesting to hear your opinions on Cuckoo. But for me, I give it a thumbs up. I enjoyed it. Okay, for the last movie on our list for this episode, we're going to talk about a film that came out on Netflix at the start of September called Rebel Ridge. This stars everybody's favourite Miami Vice star Don Johnson, alongside Aaron Pierre and Anna Sophia Robb. It was written and directed by Jeremy Saulnier. Didn't know about this film before it hit Netflix. Then I seen on Twitter somebody... posted something about it, and it was the Don Johnson pull for me. I thought, oh, Don Johnson's something. I'll give that a whirl. I always liked Miami Vice. You don't see him in a lot of films these days, but he has been in some stuff. He was obviously famously in Django Unchained. He's done 1 or 2 bits since, and it's like, go on, man, let's have a look. Don Johnson, got to be worth a sniff. So basically, the story has been likened in some ways to... First Blood, the original Rambo film, because at the very start of the film, we have Aaron Pierre's character just cycling on a dirt road somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and the cops basically like run him off the road on his bike, and then he's a black guy as well, so you got this element of, this is the racist cops knocking him off his bike, giving him trouble. He's got money in his bag and, like $10,000 or something, which is more than you would be carrying around with you, so there's like, we're going to keep this money because he says it's for his cousin. He's going to bail his cousin out of jail, and he's only got so much time to do it. So he's got this situation where he's like, look, I need that money back. What do I do to get it back? Because I've only got so much time to go and bail my cousin out. Because if he goes to the county jail or whatever it is, the big place, he's going to be, he's not going to survive in there. He's not the kind of person that can handle jail. So he's got an urgency to get his money back. But unfortunately, these cops are part of like a corrupted police force led by Don Johnson. He's like the head honcho. And basically, they're going to do anything they can to keep hold of the cash and, send him on his way. But at the same time, like with Rambo, they've picked the wrong M&F-er to mess with here, because this guy, it is a bit of a trope, but he's like ex-special forces. But it's not that he was like, I'm ex-special forces and I killed people in the war and I did all this. He was actually in this, he's trained special forces guys in hand-to-hand combat, like jiu-jitsu and all this stuff. So he's kind of just like a really good hand-to-hand guy, isn't he? Which they did pretty well in it, because he's like one of those that if there's a gun in it, he'll get it off you and take it to pieces and take it out of play rather than take it off you and shoot you with it. He's more of a sort of kind of guy, So yeah, that's what it's about. Basically, this guy trying to get his money back, trying to get his cousin freed. There's somebody within the court system in that small town that knows there's loads of shady stuff been going on, so she tries to help him. And it just becomes about a cat and mouse game. Who's going to get the upper hand? Sometimes it's the cops and stuff, and then just when you think they've got the best of him, he does something else to get around it and attempt to get his money back. And I thought it was quite a gripping couple of hours, actually. Only criticism was it was possibly a little bit too long. Again, I think you could tell a story like this in maybe an hour and 45 minutes rather than 2 hours, 10 minutes. But considering all of it, I thought it played out well. It was well written. It kept you on the edge of your seat. And it was a good couple of hours spent, on a Sunday morning on Netflix going, you know what? That was not a bad film. What do you say, sir?
Yeah, so, I mean, this came out of nowhere. Didn't know this was coming. And then, basically seen lots of people talking about it, and it was like, okay, what's this film I want to talk about? Reading up on it's interesting because apparently this was originally a vehicle for John Boyega. And he left halfway through production, disputed reasons why. But it did make me think, would this be the same film with John Boyega in it? And I think, no, I don't think it would be.
Maybe. I really like him. I really like John Boyega. I think he's one of the great British actors. But having said that, Aaron Pierre was really good in this role. I
thought he was excellent in this, and it suited him to a T. Really embodied the role. And I thought everyone was excellent in this. This was a really pleasant surprise this year. It's the first film that I didn't really know going into it, and I watched it and was like, this is actually brilliant. Really enjoyable. Yes, there's lots of tropes in there, and it's very similar to many other films. Could it be a little bit shorter? Maybe. But I never felt bored during the film. I wanted to know what was coming next. And they delivered everything they set out to deliver all the way through. It was a really solid arc, the conspiracy, all these different things that was like, this is a really solid, interesting film. I just say some of the hand-to-hand combat stuff was really cool. When they have the big blow-up in the kind of police car park, it's fantastic. The whole way it's delivered is like, this is what I want. And I just felt, especially from a writing standpoint, I was sitting there going, this is solid. The dialogue makes sense. It hit all the story beats. There was nothing missing, and the ending was satisfying. It was like, that's how it should have ended. It made sense. So yeah, I was really surprised and really impressed at it, and thought I'd love to see more kind of things in this direction.
Yeah.
This is, considering we've had kind of similar things that disappointed us in the last few years of this ilk. This was like, I've enjoyed that, and I recommend it to anyone. Go if you want something good to watch. Yeah,
it's a film that it throws you straight in there. Straight away, he's on the dirt road. This is the very first scene, and the cops knock him off the bike, and there's tension straight away. There's this kind of, you're thinking, these racist bastards just giving him shit because of the colour of his skin, but he's a smart guy. He's like, knows how to talk to them, knows how to play it to keep himself on a level footing. Even though, you'd be outraged at the way you were being treated or the way someone else is being treated, you'd be like, oh my God, but he keeps his cool. And a lot of those dialogues with, again, when they introduce Don Johnson's character and you think this guy's heavy, he's a real piece of work. And you put Aaron Pierre in there, and there's this kind of, he's calling him sir, yes sir, and all that stuff. And, again, playing it, you want to call him a piece of shit, but he doesn't. He keeps his cool, and because he knows he's got this invested interest in getting his cousin out of harm's way, So, as I say, for me, it went on maybe a little bit too long. Could have wrapped it up quicker, but that's a very small criticism because I agree with you, it was a very solid piece. Great to see Don Johnson. I think he plays these bad guys better than he used to play good guy, Like I say, Sonny Crockett, absolutely legendary, but he's got a real talent for playing a piece of work as Don Johnson.
Yeah. he's superb in this, into the way he kind of, even just the way he carries himself, like, you know, towards him, you know, walking out of the station stuff. You're like, what a prick. You know, it's like, yeah, love it.
And there's a couple of them like that, isn't there? But, you know, I won't spoil what happens at the ending, but I agree with you, it was a satisfying ending. I also thought it's the only way it could have ended, because if they'd have tried to do something else, like him taking out the whole force or whatever, it just wouldn't have quite. You need those pangs of conscience to sort of level the playing field.
And it makes it believable, right? It's a believable way to end the film. I think, as you say, if you could have gone down kind of Rambo 2 or 3 route and gone, yeah, let's blow everything up, man, and it would have been like, oh, you've let yourself down here, because it's like,
yeah, a bit much. Just
silly, you know, but yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Highly recommended. You can see that on Netflix. Only on Netflix, it says on the poster. So if you're subscribed, get hold of it and give it a watch. It's definitely worth your time. A couple of hours of, you know, high action, intense thriller. Fun. Thumbs up.
Double thumbs up.
Double. Well, there we go, Dave. That is number 65 wrapped up in a bow, ready to send out into the internet. Just leaves us time to say thank you very much for tuning in, whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're listening in on audio only, which you can access via Spotify and all the usual audio vendors across the web. We must say thank you very much to our regular Patreon supporters, Michelle and Shane. You two rock, you're amazing. And also a great big thank you to Monica, who has been supporting us via Buy Me a Coffee. So there's 2 ways you can support us if you wish. You can also buy a t-shirt from funkyt-shirts.co.uk, which helps us out as well. So just thank you, everybody who's supported us in that way. Anyone who's liked the videos, shared the videos, commented on them, we appreciate you just as much. It's a really great way to support us without giving us money. So thank you for that also.
That's it. Liking, commenting, sharing, they're just as valuable as, you know, donating if you want to and can on Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon and all that. So any interaction we love, and we love you all.
Be sure to check out our website, moremovies.co.uk, which has got loads of reviews and articles on it, and also every podcast we've ever recorded is on there. It's an easy way, one-stop shop to find everything we do at More Movies. You can join us on social media as well, on Twitter and Instagram. Facebook, those kind of places. We're out there. You can find us at More Movies For You, usually. Something like that. Is that right, Dave?
That's right. We're across all them platforms. Twitter's where we're most active, probably.
Even though that has become a cesspit of bullshit. Yes. And less and less on it, and more tend towards Instagram these days, to be honest. But let's just hope that, you know, things level out a bit and, you know, we get rid of some people and it gets back more to normal. But if it doesn't, Twitter.
Just get rid of Elon, that'll help us all out. We do have Discord if you want to join us on there. Put the link in the bio below, along with everything else. And of course, here on YouTube.
Absolutely. So we appreciate every like, share, and subscribe. So thanks very much. Again, let us know what you're up to. We look forward to hearing from you. And until we meet again, this is More Movies saying adieu.
That's it for this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And remember to like, share, and subscribe right here on YouTube. For more film reviews and articles, check out our website, moremovies.co.uk. And join us on social media at More Movies For You. That's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all across the board. You know the score. If you enjoy what we do, please consider supporting us at buymeacoffee.com or join us on one of our packages on Patreon. The links are in the description down below. And for more filmtastic content, click one of the buttons on screen now.